So I recently posted up a video of nothing but raw, unedited welding clips for the YouTube Community Tab. Now, if you're not familiar with that, make sure you subscribe and ring the bell, and you'll see all the exclusive content and extras that I usually like to throw in there. But either way, the next day, the response rate on that video was tremendous. The phone was actually ringing off the hook at the shop, the messages were coming in, and everybody was saying that that was so extremely helpful just watching raw welding clips. So in light of that, I'm going to add a few more to it. The time signatures are on the video or listed down in the description below, so you can click directly to the next weld if you need to skip through it. But either way, I'd like to thank you guys for being a part of the Fabrication series. We're going to skip the intro today and get straight into it, so enjoy.
All right, so here we go. Steel. Switching over to DC welding, no more AC. And anybody know, right off the top of their head, the greatest thing about DC welding? Wow. All right.
It only goes one way.
That's what it is. It's quiet. No buzzing, no more of that annoying, like in your ear, all the rest of that stuff. No, we switch over. Perfectly quiet. So if you're not used to DC welding, you're going to notice that right off the get-go, that you're going to step on it, it's going to make no noise whatsoever. Like, totally awesome, okay? So we're going to focus in on steel now. The reason why I start with aluminum, then we switch over to steel, because all those nice little tips and tricks and techniques and everything that we've been focusing on for the past few hours now is going to be a breeze when it comes to steel. The greatest thing in the world, because we don't have to worry so much about that heat building up and the stuff just blowing and melting away. Now we have time. We have time to really focus in. So we're going to switch off, instead of doing the typical joints that we've been working with before, we're going to switch off to the lap joint. And this is going to make life super easy. But most importantly, above all, your focus is extremely important on this one. We need to get it right down deep into that joint, right there into that root. That's where our focus needs to be. And if you get in close when I do this, you're going to realize how ridiculously close I am. Or in other words, closest to the retail price without going over. As in, your tungsten needs to be right down inside of there without dragging or dropping itself into the actual puddle. Right? So when I do this, it's super tight. So that's kind of what you're going to want to focus on. Same thing goes with your speed, your feed, everything else like that, and your consistency, where the dabs need to be right on point, just to get right there inside of that, okay? Now I want you to set these up with just enough space here to get a good solid weld about halfway around, but I'd like you to offset and kind of stagger them, so that way you're going to go around this corner, okay? Doesn't mean you have to do it in one solid pass, like go all the way around the corner, but the ability to stop and start correctly without blowing that corner away is exactly one of the things that we want to focus on here. So, start with a little autogenous tack. Bloop! Just like that. You probably didn't even see it happen. You're way over there. Alright. Tack one there. Tack one down in there. This takes almost nothing to do. And due to the lovely current flow of plasma and how it works and all the rest of that good stuff, it's it kind of tacks itself. It's almost like it's made of magnets or something. So you can happily get in close on this one. Your angle again is critical, right? So we can't go over the top and fire down on it, and we can't be too into the side of this and blow the edge over the top of the top piece right there, okay? So it has to be critical. That's where you get that grip, where I told you before, that little cigar grip is really good for getting inside of there, because it needs to maintain perpendicular to the joint. Okay, so it's going to be in there at about 45 degrees. Okay, so make sure that you don't change your angle as you're swinging along here and start blowing it out towards you, or at least towards your filler rod, because you're going to fan that cone out there and it's game over. It's going to be very hard to maintain. So that's one method. The other method is if you flip your torch over the top, you can get in just the same and still see very well. But I'm going to run with that cigar grip because that's really my jam. All right. That's what we're after. All right? So what happens when we go way too much torch height, or our angle is blown out way too bad? Here's a ridiculous torch height. You could probably see it from where you're standing, but all this just kind of balls away and everything's just flooding, getting out of control. It's not as precise, it's not as refined. Our puddle itself is just kind of falling into that root or into that joint instead of actually being pinpointed and focused inside of there. And I had to slow down dramatically in order to fill that in and actually let that wet out and bleed in there. So now we have this massive heat signature in a big zone that's blown away. So essentially we had too much heat. Now mind you, I ran the exact same full throttle all the way through on this first weld. Right? But because of that focus and that refinement and being right on time where it needs to be, it didn't generate too much because we're just moving right along. Versus if we have too much, we're burning the crap out of this thing. Okay? Now, just for fun, because I like doing this, steel is not as forgiving, or at least the tungsten is not as forgiving if it's dirty. if it's dirty, if you dip it, if you tip it, if you scuff it, whatever the case is, it's going to say screw you, and it's not going to let you weld right, okay? So for fun, let's just do a full-on dunk on this thing. There's a big fat puddle. Yeah, stick it. All right. It's definitely no good. But if we wanted to keep on trying to weld with that, see how all over the place it wants to wander? I can't even get it to focus or burn anything except for like a circle around a hole is about what it's burning. And all this heat, all this generation of everything that I'm trying to get in here, it's cooking. I mean, we're red hot. Okay? So even if the slightest little tip on the tungsten there, if you dip it or you get something on there, it's got to be resharpened because you're not going to be able to keep that focus. It's want to fan out and go everywhere else except for right into the joint where it needs to be. Okay? As soon as you get through some of those, maybe we'll work on some trick stuff after that. Let's get on it.